especially coming off Black Friday with all of the hype around digital and mobile, online shopping, we thought that it's relevant to talk about the lasting still power of circulars in the retail environment.
Okay.
And why are circulars still important? Circulars are important because stores are important. And circulars are a major traffic driver to stores. They continue to be. I think some of the big numbers from last week, up to 50 million circulars were distributed in advance of Black Friday sales. Circulars still play a key role in effective multi-channel strategy for retailers. It's not the only piece, obviously, but it's one of the key components. And we'll walk through some of the details of that. First piece, stores are important, and they're very important. Even with all the hype around online, and online continues to grow and certainly can't be minimized, stores are still where most of the shopping takes place. The majority of shopping is still done in stores. They remain at the heart of the retailer's relationship with customers. You see even the majority of people spend their shopping time in stores. And I think still numbers are overall 92% of sales consistently still take place in store. Another key piece really in terms of the size of the purchase too, stores are important. There's far less impulse shopping online. I always like to say that there's no gum aisle or magazine aisle or notions aisle online. Just some quick data here in terms of impulse shopping in-store versus online, some key categories of women's wear, toys, TVs and entertainment. Stores still generate the majority of those purchases for impulse shopping. And even, this is I think somewhat of a misunderstood area. People say, oh, well, circulars are for old people and people that just still read the newspapers. But even teens prefer to shop in store. People think that there is some ideas that old people are only shopping online, younger people like to shop online. But it's an experience. It's a social experience for even teens. If you see in this data, between even male teens, very similar. Majority prefer to shop in store versus just online. For millennials, shopping is social, so stores are still very important. 41% of shoppers 18 to 24 visit malls, and they consider it a social experience. It's entertaining. It's something that they take a great deal of pleasure from. It's not a chore. It's not something that they just revert to online. And the power of physical stores. Stores still play a very important role. They influence volume, revenue. They attract customers, your current and existing and new customers. They help build brand loyalty across channels and across product categories. So stores are, for most retailers, the main point where you come into contact with customers and things really happen. And so circulars are important because they are a primary vehicle for driving store traffic. In fact, in most retailers, circular ranks in the top of ROI. If it's done right, they should rank in the top ROI in terms of being able to drive traffic to stores. Sometimes just behind paid search in terms of driving people store traffic. And there's also, we'll talk a little bit about, there's also a point to help drive people online with circular. So the interesting thing really, there's a lot of talk about online and sort of mobile shopping, and so there's a difference obviously between shopping and transacting. And it's how people think about, we've done a lot of research in terms of how people think about the preprint, about circulars, versus online, and so they use them still differently. Print, clip, save a coupon. They certainly can compare prices. We've seen a lot of focus groups and data with customers where they actually go through what we call the sort. In terms they're looking at how on Sunday mornings or Saturdays when they get the paper, how they sort through what attracts them. They do the sort to see which retailers they're going to look at in more detail and what types of things interest them. Online and mobile, is primarily to compare prices, check store hours or locations, and compare different products. But print is the primary medium to shop ads. And this is sometimes people, this is confusing to some because they say, well, newspaper subscriptions are going down. Still many millions out there, though. But if you ask in any kind of research, if you ask people, what's your number one source of news, they won't say the newspaper. If you ask what's their number one source of sale ads, they will say the newspaper. So the benefits of preprint, people say, it makes comparison shopping easier, helps them save time and money. They definitely, a large percentage, use the newspapers to check for sale ads, as we talked about. And there's, a whole interactive sort of piece with the circular that people can put in their pocket, put in their purse, they can circle things, they can cut out things. There's an interaction that people still really do, the shoppers really do appreciate and like. And despite the efforts of many, many retailers to sort of drive people from print to online, and an online version of the circular, online circular ads have yet to catch on. And a lot of research people say, oh no, I get how it works, it's just not something that I'm interested in. More difficult to compare different ads side by side. People prefer the page flipping, the actual tactile piece of it, to actually clicking through. Oftentimes there's a tedious Zoom interface. Can't take that necessarily into stores, although with mobile you can have some repurpose of that, but it's just not the same. And it's interesting because in a variety of research, where the assumption was, well, maybe people aren't that enabled. People say, oh no, I'm working at the computer all day long. It's just not my idea of shopping. The notion of going through, the physical notion of going through a circular has a lot of similarities, according to customers, that very much like shopping, as they sort of go through aisle by aisle. They're not necessarily always looking to buy certain things. They look to a circular preprint to get ideas on what's new. Certainly look to see what's the best deal, what the best values are for this week. It's aspirational in a lot of cases. People will, can carry them around with them throughout the week. So there's many more pieces to this than just an online repurposed circular online can address from a consumer's interest point. And print still remains in demand for, as we talked about, sale information. So print, people got 87% of their sale ads, through direct mail, 86% newspaper, and the rest in store, versus the store websites or emails from retailers. So the ability, again, to look at across a variety of retailers really works best from the customer standpoint, many instances in the circular. And even, again, if we talk about millennials sort of want their information from a variety of sources. They don't want just one singular point of information. They want print and digital options, even more so than Gen X customers, as you see here. Direct mail, newspaper, store websites, or social media. They want a variety of choices, and print is certainly one of those. So the circular's role in a multi-channel world has certainly changed. Years ago, the circular was the primary point for customer contact, for advertising beyond broadcast, from a retailer to the customer, and that's changed. There's still a key to the success in multi-channel, and one of the key pieces sort of that we see when looking at a circular is that you can't burden a circular with too much. So go through an organization and ask sort of what's the role, what should be the role. Simplest role, and the role that works best for most retailers, is that the circular is traffic driver. It's to encourage the shopper to visit and buy this week. Could be in store and online or mobile, but it's really about driving traffic this week. It's about those deals. It's about trying to get people into the store or online. It's to ensure a point of view, to be highly relevant for the customers. Again, key piece of this is this week. There's always going to be another week, but oftentimes retailers that aren't successful try to overburden the circular, do too much with it, think of it as primarily a branding vehicle, which it's not. I know some people could take Some people would take issue with that, but primarily it's not a branding vehicle. It's a traffic driving vehicle. Should have brand elements, should sync with other elements of a multi-channel campaign and look like it comes from the same place and feel like that, but to have a very focused viewpoint of driving traffic is one of the key pieces, the sort of initial piece to make a circular most successful. And we have developed and actually tried out with a variety of customers, and we see that there are 6 best practices sort of in the preprint. Most things fall underneath this. And so they are, 1, build and design with the shopper at the center. So when we say this, it's not built for the merchant organization, it's not built for the retailer, it's built for the shopper. It's built for the shopper that week, for that customer, to make it most easy for them, again, to shop. As we said before, we see in research that customers like in circular very much like the shopping experience as they sort of go through aisles, flip through pages, they get ideas. It's enjoyment for them. It's not a chore. It's not something that they have to do. They develop great pleasure from this. So it needs to be built and designed with the shopper. You need to make it easy to shop. So if we think about it as very similar to a shopping experience, we don't want to put things up in the aisle, so to speak. We don't want to block their ability to see what the great deal is. We want to make it very easy. We don't want to overburden it with copy. We don't want to make it look like it's hard to buy. It should be very easy. Where possible on a given week, we want to be able to tell a story. Those could be seasonal stories. Those could be saving stories. Those could be new innovation stories. But over and over in research, customers tell us that they expect the retailers sort of tell me what's new, tell me what's important, tell me why I should want to go into your store this week, tell me what's so special about this product, or tell me why you have a great price or a great deal or a great offer. So storytelling can encompass many different things. Even if there's not a seasonal week, it can be a savings story or a bundled story. There are lots of different ways depending on the retailer to do that. But it's important to tell a cohesive, consistent story. It's important to keep a clean store. So often sort of the problem with circulars can be that there's just too much copy, too many items. While density is certainly important for a retailer to be able to tell the story and to be able to develop ROI for a circular page, there's a balance between that. And the balance is that a messy circular often translates into perception that you have a messy store, that it's not well organized around the customer. It's just a bunch of stuff. And so it's important to keep that at a minimum. People like to put in logos and add-ons and offers and attachments. And our sort of filter on that is always, if a customer can't see it, it really doesn't do any good. If they can't sort of glance at it quickly, a circular is all about scannability. Just like is in a store, people are not there to read. They're there to shop. They're there for enjoyment. They don't want to have to go through a lot of hoops to be able to understand what's their out-the-door price. And this is something that we hear a lot in research too. People always say, okay, I don't want all these complex formulas. Tell me what my out-the-door price is. Tell me, make it really clear to me why this is important, what I'm getting, and what's my out-the-door price. So number 5, clear and concise copy goes a long way. Again, people are not there to read, so minimal copy to get the point across and to get people interested and want them to come into the store. The last piece is simple but attention-grabbing graphics. So people expect hype in a circular. People want it to be organized, but they want a sense of excitement. They want to see what good prices are. They want to see why something's important. They want to see why that week is important. And so we'll go through a few examples of all these. So build and design with the shopper at the center, being relevant to their mindset. So here, we're talking about clearly ideas and information for Father's Day. Customers will say sort of at the season, what they expect is they expect the retailer to do some editing. They expect the retailer to have culled together for that week what the best items are and thinking about the customer. So here's some good examples, real clear. In scannability, you see how they tell that story. Again, we've got Walmart, Target, Kmart, Dollar Days. These are big savings messages, starting with a culmination of ideas, that edited ideas and items at great prices that the retailer has sort of put together for their shopper for that week. Next, we talk about easy to shop. So what's the idea? What am I looking at for that week? What am I looking at in the circular? Here's two examples, very, very clear. Sears is having a refrigeration sale. Very clear, it's a big deal. It's on refrigerators. The Target, the buy two, get one, but free is a clear motivator for customers, and it makes it very easy to sort of see what's going on. Easy to shop in terms of organized by price. So items or gifts under a certain amount, or everything on this page at this amount. And Walmart does a good example of that. Or in this ad from Sears, for holiday ad, very much in terms of the consumer mindset. I'm looking for gifts, and I think about shopping in different price points. The Office Max ad shows chairs at different price points. So how do I start, or how do I cull down, first of all this information and all this variety of product into something that starts with how a customer thinks? Being able to tell a story. So here you see a variety of stories, from season to items to color stories, that just, again, as the customer looks at it from scannability, tells a quick story and starts to provide ideas and excitement. Some more best practice in terms of telling a story can be bundling of products that go together and that fit a story. So, get ready for company for the holidays, everything that you need for your turkey dinner, and set that stage, which, as customers tell us looking at the preprint, they like to be aspirational. They want to know how the perfect Thanksgiving dinner is set. They may not necessarily do that, but they like to see how it could be done if they wanted to. And they like to be able to get ideas from retailers versus just pages of stuff that are sort of lined up with item and price. Customers definitely like to see this, and they like to be able to see some features in the story. So again, versus rows and rows of product that could be somewhat dissimilar, how do we bring the story together? Keeping a clean store in terms of organization. So do we shop by color? Do we shop by product lines? There's a couple of ideas from Macy's here of how it's lined up. Variety of outdoor furniture, but organized well, and that it's really easy for people to shop that way. And relevant product offerings here in terms of keeping a clean store. A lot of items, shows of breadth and variety in terms of product categories, but not too much. Enough to really demonstrate expertise and excite the customer to be able to come in that week. Clear and concise copy is a best practice. Again, I need to sort of quickly understand what I'm getting. It's all on sale, it's the most points ever, could be best prices ever, huge savings. What's my sort of main message? Target does a great job of the extra 5% and really consistent about selling that through. And they've actually gotten very much more promotional over the last couple of years as Walmart has come into the market and really embraced the circular. In the last 2 years, we've seen Walmart increase not only in terms of their number of pages, but also their drops that they use in circular. And lastly, in terms of a best practice, to be able to use simple attention-grabbing graphics. Customers want excitement. These are examples of graphics that show excitement that, in very simply, sort of tell you, something's free, which is very important. The buy one, get one. The price points in terms of need to be able to see that something is a great price and why, and explain to me sort of what the offer is, and not make it so complex that it's actually sort of a turnoff for customers. It's an example of a Walmart spread. Walmart has a very interesting formula in terms of how they deal with their price points. So you'll see here, you see one on the left page and one on the right page, and they have a device here that they show this is the best price on this page. This is a great deal. And if you flip through a Walmart book, it almost takes your eye through the pages. They don't use 5 or 6 of these. They use 1 usually at the most, sometimes only 1 per spread. So it's very well thought out and very well designed to get that customer's attention about the best price. So how circulars can help a retailer really win the week. And successful circular programs, in our experience and looking across sort of retailers, a couple of key common traits that they share. One is to, as I said, have a clearly defined, focused role in the multi-channel strategy. So the primary role is not to brand in circular, it's to encourage customers come in, shop this week, give them reasons why shop this week. And maybe ideas for the future, but it's really clearly designed, shop, drive traffic this week. That they're designed for the shop. Design, we always talk about, as we're helping retailers design circulars, that the customer needs to be in the room. We design this so that the customer can understand it, so that the customer is interested by it, so the customer can actually see the merchandise. You know, again, in the customer experience, they want to be able to see as much as they can. They want to see why something's interesting, why I should shop at your store versus another store. I want to be able to see the detail in a product. I want to see why this is great. And to be able to follow best practices and do that with a certain amount of rigor really helps the circular program be successful. And it's important to figure out for individual retailers how the circular works with other multi-channel elements to enhance that overall shopping experience. So there can be things that need more explanation and encourage people to go online, to possibly go on mobile to look at more details of a product versus try to explain it all in the circular. Or things that say come into a store and see that you've got to see our whole selection in store. You've got to see far more colors online. So it works well to enhance that experience, to give those people that do want a little bit of information more and a place to get that. And in terms of really being able to maximize circular performance, I think another piece is people that just sort of do the same thing over and over tend to get diminished results from circular. So you want to be able to continuously test, learn, try innovative things. There are ways to use advanced targeting, certainly strategic versioning. I mean, in years past, retailers had hundreds of different versions. They didn't really get them that much. So the idea is why you're versioning and what items you want to version, but it can be somewhat strategic. So you go from a one to very many to a one to fewer conversation with people. And it's a complex, depends on complex strategy, but certainly strategic versioning can work. There are alternative deliveries. It's not always a newspaper delivery. In fact, a large number of circulars that people get and use get mailed to them on a weekly basis. And that's something that seems to work well in a lot of cases. Something customers get used to looking for it. So it doesn't have to be directly connected to a newspaper delivery product. It's important to be innovative in terms of creative. So we see a lot of retailers, a movement now to be very, very minimal on copy and to really sort of pop product and pop price so that it makes it even easier each week for a customer to understand what's important. And it makes it more interesting and exciting when people actually look forward to certain retailer ads. And then, of course, relevant merchandising is very important to your customer. So it's not about how much we have in a warehouse to sell necessarily always. It's about what a customer is thinking about this week. And we like to talk about the customer's conceptual calendar. So what are things that people are thinking about and buying and what's relevant to them on any given week of the year, and have that really well planned out ahead of time. So important, again, we talked about optimizing every channel. How does a retailer win the week? It's not just about the circular preprint. It's about a combination of things. And really, then the main point is about being ready, willing to provide information where, when, and how customers want to shop. So I think that most of us are familiar that most of the customers and most shoppers are not single channel or siloed shoppers. I may in the morning buy something online and over lunch go into a store and later on, maybe even make a phone order. So it's sort of how I'm feeling at that time and what the relationship is with that product. So it's important that this is one component, but a very important component, how we make things interesting. And I think we're almost out of time, but we've got time for questions. So I think I've got one here. What's the best way to make certain circulars produce ROI? And I think that's really about testing. It's really about rigor. It's really about having the data share back. In some retailers, we see that the circular goes out, results don't come in from it for weeks, and so it's hard then to sort of change things. There's got to be a nice plan for what we're putting in the circular, what our expectation is for things to perform, and then how we really measure not just how each item did, but what's the overall effect too in terms of traffic driving. So people come in to buy an item, what other items did that drive? So there has to be a pretty rigorous testing plan set up. Another question is, mentioned that circulars are all about buying this week. Have we seen any strategy that are geared toward people that come into the store just after the original deadline but still want the deal? Oh, like Cyber Monday becoming more of a Cyber Week. I think that I don't know that the way that circulars work. They're really it's pretty clear sort of when the start dates and when the stop dates are. Not really sure I understand what you're asking for about that being a Cyber Week. Another one, won't online growth eclipse the need for circulars soon? Eventually, I think it would not be wise to say that it wouldn't. At some point, online growth would eclipse the need for circulars. But again, right now we're only talking about, we're still talking about the 90% of sales happening in a store, and circulars at this point are still primary and should be, if done right, a good ROI vehicle for driving people in the store. So I've seen some estimates say 2018, 2020 might be a tipping point for when the circulars would not be as effective. So I think the answer to that question is I don't know if soon is the answer. At some point in the future, probably. What are your thoughts on the next question is, what are your thoughts on using mobile apps that aggregate and organize circulars? I think it depends on the mobile app. What we haven't seen, and this is from a customer perspective, and I've been in a lot of different research groups. We've actually done, almost ethnographies with people and seen how people really use it. Just taking a circular and repurposing, just putting it up online or putting it up on mobile isn't necessarily something that customers are all that interested in. It's harder, I think, for people to sort of lay them out. If you've done this and you've seen people, we've actually done it, people have seen it in their own homes, they lay this out on Sunday morning. That still is a hard thing to sort of replicate. And it's almost, I've also seen other comments from customers that say, these mobile apps and online things, the retailer's really sort of pushing me into a few deals versus I have more control and I can see more if I'm looking at a print circular. This is kind of some of the things I've heard. Next question is, how do you ensure circular programs remain fresh and relevant to shoppers? I think that this is, testing is important here. I've seen some interesting things where people use heat maps to test kind of what people look at. I think the number one place, though, to start in terms of designing a circular program is to develop this customer's conceptual calendar first. Obviously, last year comps need to work into that. But too often, we see retailers that are fighting on, negative comp. They're just comping a negative comp from last year and not really thinking, how can we make this a different customer experience? Now, there are some retailers that go too far in a circular and almost make it like a magalog. And that's not what people want either. They don't want it to be a magazine. We had an ex-client some time ago who at one point decided that she thought that their circular should be a catalog. And it's just not the way that it works. People expect it to be sort of down and dirty. They know it has a limited lifetime. But the key thing is really this customer's conceptual calendar and then how your business and your merchandise can align with that to really interest people every single week, to make sure that you're really out there to win every week. I don't think there are any more questions. Hopefully I've answered them all. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you.